So when we talk about talking without an accent, the most important thing, therefore, is to be clear and to be correct. The idea of an accent is something that should naturally happen. But you see, there's a way the accent will also knock you out when it is fake. And people say, please, can you talk properly? And people will tell you that. For example, the word accent has its accent.
Accent.
You know, if you call it properly,
accent. But we call it accent.
Exactly, because we do not call it properly. Okay, in the Yoruba context, I can call you my friend. Okay, because Yorubas don't have any problems with the opposite sex, you know, calling each other friends and everything. In Igbo land, in Ibibio land, the north, you can't do that. Because once you say friend, it's suggestive of something sexual, especially when it has to do with the opposite sex. So that might be a problem.
Welcome to Voices in Learning. Let's explore what learning really sounds like. Our guest for today, we'll be talking about beyond accent. How to speak with confidence, clarity, and clear communication. Let us welcome Mr. Labo. I hope I got it this time.
Yeah, you did. Labo, simple.
Yes.
Obasa Balabo, popularly known as Mr. Labo, is a certified trainer with specialization in the teaching of English as a foreign or second language and a strong interest in English for specific purpose, context-based discourse, and cross-cultural communication. His professional exposure spans 2 decades, having worked at management levels in education, banking service, and occult broadcasting, including on radio and television. It trains individuals and organizations in language and communicative competence with emphasis on authenticity. Its training and education extends from language to education and communication with certificates from within and outside of Nigeria. He is a member of the Distinguished International Phonetics Association, UK.
So, Mr. Labo, please can you shed more light to speaking with clarity? I mean, clear communication.
Yes, so thank you. There are basic things that we need to focus on, like you say, the 5 C's of communication. In no particular order, you need to be clear. In Nigeria, we call it Claire. It's not Claire. That's somebody's name. No, there's Claire, you know, which is French in its origin. So it's not Claire. It's clear.
Clear.
Yeah, so that's first. So it has to be clear. Number 2, it has to be correct. And that will be attached to what we call something being authentic. Okay, authentic, you know, pronunciation, delivery, you know, presentation. Number 3 has to be complete. You don't say things like excuse. Say excuse me, please. You know, then it has to be concise. You know, basic important, you know, details must be within what you're saying, and then it has to be compassionate. So when you're talking, people do not feel threatened or disrespected. The value attached to people is still sustained when you talk or when you communicate or attempt to communicate with people. So when we talk about talking without an accent, the most important thing, therefore, is to be clear and to be correct. The idea of an accent is something that should naturally happen. It's not what you should go for. For example, the word accent has its accent.
Accent.
You know, if you call it properly,
accent. But we call it accent.
Exactly, because we do not call it properly.
So accent is not correct.
It's permissible. People can understand it, okay? But it's not the exact presentation of the word itself. The word has a schwa at the end, and the schwa is very easy to call.
Oh,
right? Like say sunt.
so scent is scent.
Not always.
People will not hear what you're saying.
No. That is why.
They won't understand what you're saying.
No, that's why you have to be. Did you understand when I said accent? Did you?
Accent, yes.
You understood it because I didn't say it with any attitude, with any attachment. I said it naturally. And that's what people should go for. So if you learn something naturally, if you have an original, authentic exposure to it, it will naturally come out. Everything I speak now, you understand quite well, and you accept them, right? Exactly. So that is what people should go for. Get a natural exposure to whatever you want to speak. So learning the way it is firsthand instead of third hand, second hand exposure, which is the damage that we are grappling with in education. A lot of the people who are teaching these things they make use of what is called inauthentic material. Inauthentic material will be lack of exposure to the original source. Authentic material. So, for example, a textbook is an inauthentic material. It will not teach you context. It will not teach you. It can teach you discourse, but it will not teach you context. Social linguistic context, for example. It will not teach you that. So, for example, you can say a friend in English, and you learn it. So you could get that from a textbook. And a friend is somebody with whom you have some friendly, let me not use the word again. With whom you have some shared interests. Okay. That you feel positively towards. Okay, so that's a friend, okay? But you can't use the word friend in every context. I can't call you my friend if you were Igbo, for example. You're somebody's wife. I can't call you my friend, but in Yoruba, I can call you my friend. In Yoruba land, I mean. Okay, in the Yoruba context, I can call you my friend, okay? Because Yorubas don't have any problems with the opposite sex, calling each other friends and everything. In Igbo land, in Ibibio land, the north, you can't do that. Because once you say friend, it's suggestive of something sexual. It really has to do with the opposite sex. So that might be a problem. Because that's the idea of context, okay? So what most people have is they just learn a word and they call it friend, and they use it, inappropriately in many cases because they are not taught. So the emphasis should not be to go learn sound alone or the pronunciation of something. The emphasis is to understand the total context. So you have social linguistic, you have linguistic, you have discourse, you have strategic. These are different contexts. So the emphasis should therefore go to communicative competence instead of just learning an accent, which is just an aspect of a sub-aspect of language learning and communication. So it's much ado about nothing.
So where do we learn this? Where are we meant to learn this?
Yes.
Is it meant to be in school, or is something we're meant to learn on ourselves, like learning outside school?
Yes, learning does not stop. That's why the emphasis is not just about, for example, in language learning, it's not just about language acquisition anymore. It's more of language learning, for example, which is an aspect of communication and communicative competence again. Where we should learn, it should be everywhere. We should experience what is called immersion, where you're immersed into, or you're immersed in the complete competences of communication, where it's not just about body language, it's not just about speech or sound. Body language is included, context is included, meaning is included, right? Where people can really make sense thoroughly and not just try to sound like somebody else. All right, there's something we call in our training, for example, called it find your voice, where you don't need to talk like somebody else, but you can learn from them. You can learn rhythm, for example. You can learn the metering of speech, how to control yourself, how to rest properly, how to have all the stress shifts you need to do. For example, in Nigeria, we do a lot of broken English. Broken English in the sense that when we talk, we read like this. The man, he said, come back at 2 o'clock. You know how many full stops are in that direction?
But this is happening in schools, if you see young kids as a young student, they're not speaking clear. The
a lot of accent.
No.
Many
So it depends on the school.
Yes.
So let me say 60%, 60 to 70% of kids in public and private schools, their sentences are not complete. You can see that there's a problem.
Yes, part of it is the influence of
The teachers.
No. The teachers are also, let me use the word, afflicted by this same scourge. Okay, the scourge of the incompleteness of meaning. This scourge of it comes from the larger society. Our our policies on education have been, like, to a large extent in need of some serious reappraisal. What do we want to achieve, for example? We're hoping to do public-private partnership with government. We started, some that we've gotten approval for, and we hope that we can work with government eventually, as we intend to help bring in, for example, bilingualism, to encourage bilingualism, so that people do not have this subtractive attitude, extreme emphasis on just English. The English that is also not competently taught. Because the exposure to authentic material is very low. Okay, my first degree is in English, for example.
Okay.
And
in Nigeria?
Yes, before I did anything with schools, outside. The truth of it is that in many of our schools, I would say that I'm lucky to have been in a language studio a number of times when I was, studying, for my first degree. Many schools don't have language labs, where you get to listen to how the language is spoken professionally.
So, in Nigeria, what are we meant to speak in Nigeria? English is not our
Yes, it's not our L1 in many instances.
Yes.
Our first language.
Okay. So, who are we meant to copy? Are we meant to copy?
That's the problem. We're not meant to copy. We're meant to learn. The problem, yes. The problem is that you have these play around people saying, "Fake it till you make it." You never make it. No, they don't make it, and that's a damage, because it goes down to people who are looking up to such people. I see that a lot on the internet. In fact, we had to shut down a part of our training, facilitation at a point, because the emphasis was on people wanting to learn accent. They wanted to sound American and British. When we've had
that's where money is. If you call me,
that is the problem.
So let me say something. I've spoken to a lot of people. I find them maybe like a consultant, and immediately she picks the call and I hear the accent, I know I'm gonna break my bank, because she's sounding British.
Yes.
Or American.
Yes. That's what's called.
Yes. Because people like anything international. So I can decide to change my accent just because I want to sound like someone that's been trained in the US or in the UK, for instance. So what are we meant to how are we meant to speak this English?
That's what I'm trying to.
When you find yourself in a space and a lot of people wants to listen to you, if you just open your mouth and start speaking our usual Niger English, people might not really concentrate. Sometimes
have you listened to Chimamanda Adichie?
Yes.
Does she speak with any accent?
No.
She does.
Really?
Yeah.
What accent?
The accent is very neutral. Everybody has an accent.
I have a Nigerian accent, I know.
What did you say, please?
I have a Nigerian accent. I have a Yoruba.
Not completely. You do not. You don't really have a complete Yoruba accent. You have more of a Nigerian accent. The city accent. That's what you have. And there's nothing wrong with having your accent, which is what we're trying to educate the world with, as much as possible. The idea we like to share, especially for education, for the educational, sector, where schools want there's this emphasis on what they call diction. The damage they've done to education is much. Because a lot of the people who So let me address what you were saying about, okay, how do we speak? We need to speak
Without copying.
correctly. That's how you
Okay.
should speak.
Okay.
We need to be authentic. That's how we should be. For example, when the idea of being authentic is about what is correct. If it is not correct, it's not authentic.
So that is still my
Let me
point.
give you an
This is
example.
correct.
Exactly. Let me give you an example. So I am a member of the International Phonetic Association in the UK. And what does that mean? It means that it's about 200 years old, at least about 200. We are hosted by Cambridge University, Oxford, and University College of London. These are the homes of the most standard forms of English. So you have in every dictionary IPA, that is International Phonetic Association standard. Okay, this association therefore is responsible for what is called the standards of English, which is about being neutral. In the IPA worldview, you have Yoruba, you have Ibibio or Igbo, you have Athak, you have Koshili, Swahili, right?
Okay.
You have all of them in their regional forms, so that if you were to introduce yourself, you are going to say, my name is Labo, not Labo, or Basa, my name. But you're not going to say my name. It's a name because that's English.
Name.
My name. But Labo is not English, so you're not going to say Labo. So I have a British colleague who calls me Labu. So I keep telling him I'm not Labu, I'm Labo. Why? He doesn't have it in him to use that structure, so he has to acquire it. What are we talking about? What is correct is what is called the neutral accent, which is about learning to call things the way they really exist.
Okay.
So there are people saying, okay, you want to call them. The difference basically in what you call. In the UK, for example, which of the accent do you want to copy? Is it Cockney? Is it Welsh? Is it Estuary? Is it Shire? It's just like in Yoruba land, you have Egba, Ekiti, Igbo, the same thing abroad. So you have everything there too. For a native speaker of English, you also need to go to school to learn to speak English clearly. So what really matters is to learn the standard. For example, the standard is standard. It's not that's neutral because it makes use of the schwa and puts the places of stresses in the right places.
But they don't teach us all these things in school.
Exactly. So the problem is education planning. We are not deliberate. I was going to make a statement that you made already. When you talk to school owners, they say, this is what the parents want. So you teach the children. So they teach the children to say things that are pure entertainment. Because those things have no application in real life. Especially when we do foreign exams. They fail woefully because they're not trained in proper grammar. The emphasis is on the entertainment value of, that is, my child speaks English. Igbo people say that you understand the effect people say that kind of thing. You should not be limited to try to sound like anybody. You should learn the authentic structure of how English is spoken. So the IPA, for example, will teach you the neutral accent, how it should be spoken. I learned to embrace Yoruba with my IPA understanding, because there is something called Yoruba. It will not become English. So don't anglicize it and say Yoruba. When you say Yoruba, for example, you have changed it. It's no more English. It's no more Yoruba, and neither is it English. There is another language that does not exist that you have created. Unless you can sustain it, we're going to have the same problem we're having now. So there's a standard.
Not standard.
No standard,
Standard, we say standard.
Yeah, because what we have is, so there's that collision of, what do you call it? A collision of the Nigerian content that we have and the target language content that, so that collision creates a problem. That interaction creates a problem unless you acquire the authentic. So we need to retrain people to get it right in the first place. A lot of the people that are doing it are not trained, so they just pick things because they have an imagination of how it should be. Learning is not an assumption. Learning must be processed. That's why if you're to be trained, get somebody who is certified, properly certified to train.
Like Mr. Labo.
Yes, Mr. Labo. By God's grace, to help you understand the structure of what you want to achieve, which is communication. It's not about sounding like anybody else. I don't sound like anybody. I sound like me. I've learned to discover my voice. Okay, so I'm not trying to sound like an American or a Brit. I'm trying to sound. I speak like me because I've acquired what it is to say what I want to say. So it is not say. Okay, so I can say, right, and I can understand it and embrace it and use it, and I can help other people to do the same without sounding like me.
So they sound like that.
Like themselves, they discover themselves, right? So the idea is the standard has to be learned. When you learn to say learn, for example, or standard, for example, or say example instead of example, and it's not something you achieve in one day.
Okay, because it's letter E, right? So it's meant to be example.
No, it's just a case of stress. That's why.
So where is the stress coming from?
The stress is not on the first letter.
Oh,
so it makes the first letter shorter.
No. Okay, shorter. Okay.
So you can E instead of E.
Oh,
so the stress starts on exam.
Exam.
So you now have example.
Okay.
Yes.
Alright, so I have this question for you. Many people feel insecure about their accents. Do you think accents are truly a barrier? Or is it more confident? Is it more about confidence and delivery? I think you've answered that, right?
Yes, there's a position by professionals. Two levels of skills are important to acquire. Your first is your problem-solving skills, your core area of training. So you're a teacher, you're a journalist, you are a doctor, anything. It's very important that you have absolute competence in that. The other next important skill you need to acquire is your communicative competence skill, so that if you're a good banker, people connect with you better, because that's the idea of communication. Okay, people connect with you better because you communicate better. So I would naturally prefer a doctor who understands me, who listens to me, who will talk clearly that I can understand. I would prefer such a doctor to the one that is speaking and I can't understand what he's saying, even though he's equally qualified. So these are realities. What therefore is important is that the 5 C's are achieved. Are you clear? I got shocked when I realized that in aviation, for example, you must have at least 4 levels of, competence out of 6. Yeah, I think that's correct. Before you can work anywhere in aviation. Why? People were dying because of poor communication and communicative competence. Poor. People were dying, and something happens in health. It happens in different sectors. So those 2 skills are very important. So what they emphasize is not whether you speak an accent. What they emphasize in your professional expectation to qualify you, to make you the preferred person, is, can you talk clearly? Can people understand you?
Your delivery.
Can your delivery can you serve the cognitive expectation that you should have? Like when you talk, I can connect with it. So when you say, for example, when I was in banking, for example, we had a problem with a particular guy from India. Now, the Indian policy for education and language learning is that you should sound Indian. Now, why that is very nationalistic, the problem there is that people don't understand you because you're speaking with your, I think, Hindu, influence on English. So it is actually counterproductive because you're trying to fight colonialism, right? But you're actually practicing colonialism by doing that, because you're trying to colonize English instead of just liberating English and making it what it is. So this guy lost the bid to get to do business with us because we didn't understand what we were saying. And he was very persistent and he will listen. So we say something like this. Excuse me, this program is very important that you participate. It's going to be $5,000, but we'll give it to you $1,500 because it's very important that I want you to miss it. I want you to be part of it. It's going to be in Lagos and around in Dubai. I promise you, because you're going to be my friend. And I'm going to say, people didn't understand what we were saying. So the customer care unit will always refer to my office. I was head of corporate communications. And they will say, Mr. Labo, you speak everything. Please, talk to this man. Then I tried to connect with him. Communication is about connecting with people. So it's not really about the accent. Accents can determine or suggest that you're exposed, that you are trained, and that you are competent. But you see, there's a way the accent will also knock you out when it is fake. And people say, please, can you talk properly? And people will tell you that. Like recently, I challenged a particular school because I got to know they were trying to teach the children to speak properly. And I listened to the audio and they were saying things like, my name is Adarele. I'm like, what? My name is Adarele. I'm very proud to be a part of this school. My teacher teaches me very well. I'm very proud of her. You're like, what? And this is what's happening in schools. So they don't understand rhythm. They don't understand. So the rhythm of the language they don't have. The understanding of the language they don't have. The application, the context they don't have. They just listen to something on radio or on the radio or on YouTube, and they want to ape it. So we need to have a deliberate, conscious effort at helping school systems, okay, to get it right. If we get it right from there, and the emphasis is not just on an accent, it's about competence, clarity, those 5 C's of communication. Is it clear? Is it correct? So you cannot say bed. We want to say a bird. Okay, so you need to acquire you need to acquire it. So you need to learn it, as it were, to say a bird, so that you do not say a bed, which is a different thing. Like you say a shirt instead of a shirt.
A shirt.
Yes, a shirt. And you don't need to call the R. It doesn't have to be so rotic. Okay, I had these guys from the United States. They were Americans, and they came to Nigeria, traced our office, and said, based on some recommendation, I think, and said, look, we can't, people don't understand us when we try to, talk to the public in Nigeria. And they had come for some public speaking engagement and they wanted to stay for some time. So they said, could you help us? Yes, of course, I can help you with the schwa. Once you can learn to say schwa, you don't need to say soldier, for example. You need to say soldier. You need to say water, for example. You say water. So it makes it easy. So you don't need to say it's very important. Simply say it's very important. So we taught them to use their schwa, they emphasize the R, so that you can stress your vowel.
Sure.
The schwa is the that I said earlier. It's the most common sound in English. It often happens where the stress is not. For example, in the word supply, it's not supply or supply. It's just supply. It's soft. It's very soft. Supply. Yeah, so you can say supply, you can say water. Like people like to say water. No, or water. Say I'm gonna bottle water on my dog. You don't need it. I mean, nobody understands it. That is a localized use of English, okay? It's used by some people within a locale. So why do you want to sound like them? So you get to schools where they say things like 5, 9, 19. That is just...
What's that?
19.
Oh, okay.
5, they call it 5. That's an accent. You don't need to learn other people's dialects and accent. Just be what? Clear. Just be correct. So the word is correct, for example. So the schwa is in the first is in the first syllable. So the rect is when you have the stress. So it's going to be correct. Instead of correct, like we say in Nigeria. But if somebody says, for example, correct, the worst thing that will happen is they're going to localize you. The perception you have, the perceived interpretation of your identity is going to be local. But if you're good at what you do, nobody really cares.
I was going to say that.
Yeah, if you're good at what you do, nobody really cares. But it's good to have both. It's good to have all of it. So, as a communicator, I've been a broadcaster, been a banker, I've been different things. In all of it, one same thing cuts through. Is the fact that people know that Mr. Labo speaks well and communicates well. It sells me better as whatever it is I've done. Whether as a banker, whether as a broadcaster, or whether as a teacher or as a trainer. Like when I was in broadcasting, I had a stint with NTA, the NTA, both in Lagos and New York, in Akwa Ibom State, where I worked as a producer. And but it was basically contractual in those days, and in many cases, even the regular staff would not be preferred when some assignments came up.
Because of your
because of the
skills.
competencies around my communication skills. So it wasn't just like, he could report, but he could report excellently, right? When I was in Lagos, I wrote in many cases the breaking news, because you didn't have a chance to correct a breaking news English. It had to be once and correct. So the team eventually felt, Labo should do it, because the competencies were there. So the most important thing, so if I can round off on that, the most important thing is that you are clear and that you're correct. Those are the most
clear, not clear.
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 Yes, it's even.
Clear.
Yeah, it's clear. Yeah, it's clear and not clear, which is on this name.
Okay. Welcome to Voices in Learning podcast. Voices in Learning podcast is powered by My Education. So what are the things we do at My Education? So at My Education, we recruit teachers for school owners, for schools, for educational organizations, for families, and every other person that needs a teacher. We have an online platform where we have online classes for people abroad and people in Nigeria. We also recruit governesses called Living Teacher for parents who want education outside the classroom in their homes. We also do trainings for support staff in schools, in organizations, and also for families. So contact us today at My Education on our social media platforms or via WhatsApp. You can also call us on this number below. So, in your opinion, what matters more? How you sound or how well your message is understood?
Yes, how well your message is understood is more important. Now, the idea of the emphasis on accent used to be because in the UK, people spoke Cockney, for example, where a representative of a strong pool of people who were educated as city people, right? So everybody wanted to speak with some form of Cockney. In fact, there's something called Mockney in the UK. Mockney, for example, I say UK, I can say UK.
UK, Lavamo.
Exactly, but the structure of English is K, like you say July. So the stress on the K.
July, not July.
Not July. Okay, so the appropriate thing is we can learn it over a period where people learn to say things well. The politics of communication or communicative competence comes from this nationalistic argument that I'm not Uyghur. No, it's not about what you are. It's about what is right.
It's not about what you are.
It's about what is right. Exactly. So, what you are, therefore, will change once your emphasis or your commitment is to what is right. Like we teach that for people to transit. So there's this transition that we train people in to transit from being just natural to being professional. And everybody wants to be professional at the end of the day. Okay, so what really matters is not how you sound, even though it matters. But most importantly, So if you're a surgeon, for example, and you are in the theater, and you're saying things the wrong way, you could kill your patient. So you need a scalpel, for example, and you're not saying, "Scalpel, can I get a scalpel?" Maybe out of 10 people who are supporting you, 2 will understand, and they're not close to the scalpel. So your assistant doesn't understand. It takes somebody else who's like two places away. So say, no, he's trying to say scalpel. But people say is dead.
People switch their accent based on the environment.
Yes, it's part of communicative competence.
Yes, because I know people who speak. So let me say something.
It's not just an accent; it's everything.
So I've lived in the US for 5 months at a point with my son, and my son was still speaking Niger English
because he was not sufficiently immersed.
Okay, so but whenever
my language of the environment,
whenever my sister's daughter is home, he speaks what she's speaking
because that's peer influence.
Yes,
right?
Yes.
That child will naturally speak what the peer will speak over a period and become the stronger attachment the child has over a period. But if the child has a balance of exposure, he will speak both.
Yeah. So whenever I'm talking to him, it's like if he's speaking to my sister,
he speaks what you understand.
Yes, and speaks what you understand. So I'm like, stick to one. She understands.
No. See, that's another damage that we are creating. Children can speak up to 10 languages between the age of 0 and 10, with all the accents, with everything, absolutely proficiently. So there is this subtractive attitude we have. That's what I'm saying, which has been defeated again and again by research, that you should not limit children. Don't limit children. Don't limit what they can speak. Don't limit what they want to say in terms of what languages they want to acquire, the accent or the dialect around it. Let them learn it because they're like sponges. They can just soak things in. Okay, so let them learn it when they can now. It will always help them. So there's what is called code switching, code mixing. There's what is called diglossia or diglossia. In language and communication. You should actually be able to connect with people at different levels of society, of the society. So there are places I go to, I don't speak English. I speak Pidgin, Creole, completely. How are they doing now? Oh, God, you don't go if you do this kind of thing here now. Why do you do it like that? Because if you go like, you can't do this here, why would you do that? They look at you like this. So that
you never
exactly right. You know. I look at you like that.
Yeah.
But so you need to have that social competence, that communicative competence, that you can connect to people at different levels. Where if you were to talk to the cream of the society, you present what is standard because that's what's required. It reflects your level of exposure and training. But you cannot be talking to people who are not educated or trained and you want to be sounding so complex to them. You are going to disconnect. The intention of communication is connection. That is the intention of communication, the capacity to connect. So if you're not connecting, you're not making sense. You're not communicating. So there are people that you need to speak Pidgin to. And Pidgin is getting popular. We started teaching Pidgin in 2014.
You teach Pidgin?
Yeah, we do teach Pidgin. We don't stop people from speaking Pidgin. People ask me, what do your children speak? They speak everything. They speak Pidgin, they speak Yoruba, they speak English. They speak different variants of English. So they speak the Niger street English and they speak proper English. So when they want to say English, they say English. But they can also say English.
English.
So it's just English because that's what it is. Okay, that is what it is. Okay, that's the way it exists. That's the authentic structure. That lack of, what the absence of what is authentic is our problem because of the identity politics of it. Unfortunately, the native speakers of English themselves have a crisis of identity presently. So they tend to absorb and glorify everything else except theirs now. So there's this nihilist attitude that is prevalent in the UK and America, where they now learn to absorb what is incorrect and say, oh, it's pluralism. No, you're losing yourselves, and they better wake up. Otherwise, in the next 50 years, That's about the range of period where you lose a language generally. Okay, about that length of time where people because like the EGIDS is a scale, for example, which is transgenerational measurement of how languages are spoken. When you have 3 generations, then the language is intact. That means the grandparent, the parent, and the children, and the grandchildren, that is, like I call it children, but I can also call it children.
Children.
It's just children because that's what it is. Short sounds, short E and short schwa at the end. The short
Children.
Children. Yeah, simple. So once you absorb it naturally, people are not going to question you. They're going to say, wow, that's nice. I like the way he speaks. But once you think about it, people are going to say, that means you've not acquired it. You are just trying to learn an accent. So why
That's to be real or not.
Exactly. So be it instead of try to. Don't sound like it. Be it.
Don't fake it.
Don't fake it. You're not it. So acquire it. Learn it. Yeah. So the EGIDS scaling, it's a major concern where we need to help our children to learn to speak with our grandparents. If your children can't speak with their grandparent, that language is dying. So there's a scaling. By the time you get to 6, 7, you're getting near extinction. And that's when it's like one generation that's speaking it. That means the grandparents. So in about 50 years, the language will die. The same thing is going to happen in the UK very soon. The standard, if they do not address this issue or this pluralism, that it just self-destruct, right? Okay, when they start to hate on themselves and take the votes for all the sins of the world, racism, slavery. Everybody did it. We all did it. I mean, you probably had slaves 2 generations back. You understand? We had slaves in my family. Okay, so I mean, are we going to be paying reparation to other people in Nigeria? No, we're not, because that was history. It was right at that time. Okay, so everybody did it. So unfortunately, they're going to lose their language too. Very soon, English is going to be so bad they can't recognize it anymore. So, well, for us who are second language speakers of English, it doesn't rub off, it doesn't take away the responsibility to speak it properly, whatever it is you speak, whether it's Spanish, whether it's Yoruba, whether it's whatever. What you want to achieve is
clear communication,
so that people understand you. Yes, people understand what you're going to say, and they know where you're going, and they should be able to switch when necessary. Yeah, that's part of the competence you need to acquire.
I also think for school owners of different organizations, they need to train their front desk, the receptionist, on clear communication. So I was trying to get a school for my son 3 years ago. So I went to different schools to make inquiries, and getting there, I had, those people, they're selling the school. They're not the ones in the marketing department, but they're the first set of people you meet, and whatever the
security guy.
Yes, and the first impression lasts, So I believe organizations, institutions, schools should train their...
Now they should come to Lens Lab.
Lens Lab, definitely.
So they should come to help them. As a school, we've trained a number of schools. Unfortunately, it's just the attitude to policy formation. We have a terrible situation, and I appreciate the fact that the Ministry of Education is trying to I hope to engage with them, as an organization, that is Lens Lab should try to engage with them. We're trying to do that already, where from the gate man to the receptionist to the teachers, everybody is initiated into the appropriacy of the processes. We've trained a number. So that was a particular gratifying experience that we had in a part of Nigeria. And we trained them for about 2 weeks, the cleaners, the receptionists, the teachers, and then the school PTF, Parent Teachers
Association
Forum. Okay, look for me. Who trained us? Who trained the school? Because the gardeners, the ground managers, or compound managers, everybody was different. What we did was not to teach them to speak. What we did was to teach them to connect with the essence of communication, the why. And when they saw it and they were like, oh, so this is it. They embraced it and they became better. Most times what we try to do is performative. Everybody saying like me, say it after that. My name is so, yeah, but there's no cognitive connection with it. They don't know why they're saying it. They don't know the social context and implication. They don't know the reason. They don't know the why. Once the why is missing, there's no miracle that can happen. So what people should do is to become instead of sound like. Become it instead of sound like it. So the process of becoming is a learning process. There's a course we do, we call it learning readiness. And the implication of that is that if you're not ready to learn, you cannot learn. If you're not ready to, and what is learning? Learning is to acquire information that changes you, influences you to function better. Yeah, and to provide solutions.
Okay, so this is my last question to you before you talk to us about what you do at Lens Consulting, right?
Lens Lab.
Yes. So if you could give just 3 simple tips for anyone who wants to speak more confidently and clearly, what could that be?
Number 1, you need to rediscover yourself.
Okay.
You need to grow a different identity or an improved identity. Everything you do is a function of how you see yourself. Who you are will determine what you do. So how do I see myself? The first thing you notice about me is not going to be where I'm from. Most people don't know where I'm from. They don't know, In fact, you have people, who are non-Nigerians who argue with me that I'm a Nigerian. They say, no, you're not. I'm a Nigerian. I'm Yoruba. Then within Nigeria, you have people that argue with me who tell me you're not Yoruba. I'm Yoruba. Why? The first thing you hear from me is not orange. It's not hentin. You understand? We all have it. The age factor, the aspiration factor. It's not. Everybody has it. The houses have their paya, which is fire. Although so far instead of so far, and you have the Igbos with their elo. Amo. You have the BBs with their jolu. That's a yellow. Alright, or yongsheng. Everybody has. We all have it. Why they behave or communicate like that, the Yorubas, the BBOs, the houses, is an identity. So 2 things, culture and identity. So your culture is the way you behave. Your identity is why you believe you have to behave like that. So if you were brought up in the UK, for example, your identity is going to be the way they behave. So you want to not just talk like that, you also want to dress like that. If they were to give you buba and euro, you're going to say, no, who's that? Because it does not identify with you. You don't identify with it. So identity is the main thing that you must work on. And what we do is help people to transit from just their natural identities into their professional identity. Being a professional makes you more neutral. What really is important to you is to achieve the objective of creating a solution. In terms of communication, the solution is that the people can see you and understand you and connect with you at a very authentic level. They accept the fact that you're good at what you do and they appreciate it and they want to be a part of it. That is what it means to be a professional. A professional works by proof, fact, process. It's not just what is natural or arbitrary. That's a standard. Once your identity changes, your activity changes. Once you can re-identify yourself, we got videos that we can show where people start talking like, my name is Sunday Mani Golaro, and then they change over time to, my name is Suleiman Golabo. I'm telling you. So we've got videos of that, people like that. What changed is not the fact that we taught them to speak English or to communicate. So. What changed is the identity. You always do what you are. And once identity changes, you are open to learning and to becoming what is involved in your new identity. Everything that's ingrained in your new identity, the competencies, the abilities, the consistency, because identity drives activity, including speech, including body language. So you see people who have slouched, sitting up straight. Like in our unheard classes, I mean, people tell me, thank you. And I'm like, for what? They said, look, I thought I was in class when I was answering questions because there was a difference. You know, people say you taught us to be confident and to, like, naturally it will be almighty IELTS, okay? But they're going to the exam feeling cool, like, yeah, I can do it because they know what to do already. They are operating at the same level as the language itself at that moment. They're not just going to the exam as Nigerians, they're going to the exam as professionals from different fields. So the delivery is different because something else is driving them. Once identity is established, the readiness to acquire is there because you want to do things that identify with you now. That is the crux of it. You're not forcing it.
You're not trying to copy anyone.
You're not trying to copy it. You are becoming. So the learning process becomes a becoming process for you. So once you discover that, I need to use compound words. Instead of saying compound words, you now say compound words.
Compound words.
It becomes natural to you because that is what you are now. Yeah, so if I now tell you to code switch from Yoruba to English, you're not going to be saying Yoruba, English. You're going to say Yoruba, English. Because each is a distinct, original, correct context. And you cannot change any of them or either of them. Once you do that, you have lost it. And that is not being true to yourself anymore. Because
that's your identity.
Exactly, because a professional will not do that.
So whoever wants to be confident, whoever wants to speak clearly in terms of clear communication, communicate clearly, you have to change your...
You have to improve on your identity. Yes, you can't change who you are, but you can become an improved version of you. You'll always be a Nigerian, but you can become a professional Nigerian.
Okay.
So what is missing in Nigeria is attachment to professionalism. So what is missing in Nigeria is the attachment to core professionalism. And unfortunately, the emphasis is on money making. If we emphasize solution, the achievement of solution, where people talk clearly, people talk correctly, and people demonstrate competencies in body language. For example, you're talking and there is that confidence in your delivery. It's called emission, okay? You're emitting the appropriacy of being humane and being a human. And people say, I can identify with this. Right? It comes from what you've learned. It comes from that becoming process. Yeah. If people can desire to listen to what you're saying, why? Because you know how to variate the exact vocal variety. You know what to intensify, you know, and then reduce it, you know, because you want to draw people in. When you learn all those things, you're not pretending. You're not faking it. Once it becomes natural to you, you just keep connecting and making sense to people. So becoming is the crucial thing. After that, all the modules start coming in and making sense to you. You now realize that, I don't need to read with full stops. The full stop is at the end. So if there's no full stop, I sustain. So that's what they call stress shift or stress shifting. So instead of saying the man wants to go to the office, and you say the man, he wants to go to the office, which is what we do in Nigeria. That's what's called broken English, actually, because it's broken. Once you move from that to the man wants to go to the office, something happened. You now know it's a stress shifting that you do instead of broken English. So you can say the man wants to go to the office. Like in spelling, for example, in schools, we go around schools, we try to train them, and we train a lot of them too. And then you tell them to spell. They spell things like this. Water, for example, they say WATER. Okay, so is it W-A-T-E-R. That is not how it's done. It's W-A-T-E-R. It's just a count. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you say W-A-T-E-R, that is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you were to convert that to a sentence, it's going to be, women always turn everything right. Which is the scourge that we are dealing with in Nigeria. So, simply put, learn to be correct, learn to be clear, learn to be concise, learn to be complete and compassionate.
Okay, the 5 C's. Thank you so much, Mr. Labo. So we'd like you to tell us about Lens
Lab Limited.
Yes.
Okay, so Lens Language Lab Limited is not just about language, even though it suggests language, because language is the foundation of communication. There is no communication that goes outside of language. Okay, so our trainings are in the areas of language and communication and education. And what we want to do is to partner with government and individuals. It's not just a training outside of the system. We infuse the system to work with the system to help people to achieve what is authentic and what is correct that can help Nigeria to move forward, so that from very early years, our children can speak properly, can talk properly, they can have different contexts of communication and into adulthood, so that as a professional, as a teacher, as a doctor, you can communicate effectively. So we have CPD classes, continuous professional development for adults. We've got teachers training so that our children can get it right from very early, so they learn to say the man is about the man. So because the man is big, so the man is big, so they say the man is big. So, and we have children from early years who can do that, And so what we try to do is to help people from early years to adult and professional classes to get it right when it comes to communication. It's not just about the emphasis on speaking, it's about the total package of communicating. Your body language, your tone, your appearance, your gesticulation, the way you connect with people, and the general meaning behind communication. Alright, so we train people in foreign exams, IELTS, OET, PTE, for those who want to travel. Then we have a partnership for visa arrangement for those who also need visa arrangement. And then we train corporate organizations, like you said, the customer care part of it, cross-cultural engagement. So we train corporate organization, banks, individuals, schools, pharmaceutical organizations, teachers in particular, because if teachers get it right, wow, we're good. Yeah, we're very good. All right, so this is some of the things we do.
Okay, thank you for coming, Mr. Labo. We really appreciate it. Thank you for
and if I may add, we have both we have virtual classes,
okay,
and we have physical classes. So physical classes are in Lekki, 25 Oladimiji Alo, and then we also do that's 25 Oladimiji Alo. So it's not Oladimeji, it's Oladimiji Alo. Okay, 25. So got physical classes there, and then we also do virtual classes for people from different parts of the world. Yeah.
Thank you for joining me on Voices in Learning. I would love to know what stood out for you. Connect with me, share your thoughts, and let's keep the conversation going. Until next time, let's keep exploring what learning really sounds like. Thank you.